In this lesson, we're going to look at another type of while loop, the event-controlled loop. The event-controlled loop looks for some occurrence, some event to occur to make the loop stop. There's several different types of event-controlled loops. We can't cover them all. Later in the chapter, I'm going to introduce you to files and working with files, and then we'll see an event where we read a file until we run out of data in the file, that being the event that stops the loop. For this particular lesson, though, I'm going to give you a simpler example where we're going to enter grades into a program until a certain grade called a sentinel value is entered. In this case, the sentinel will be -1. So let's get started. We're going to call this program whileEvent.py. And I'll explain how the sentinel works in just a minute. First, I need to set up a couple of variables. We're going to have an average variable, a total variable, and a count variable. So in other words, we're going to be entering grades until we get to a certain place where we want to stop. We're going to total those grades and then divide by the total number of grades to get an average. So we prompt the user to enter a grade and a -1 to quit. -1 is our sentinel value. Entering -1 is the event that causes the loop to stop. Then we get that grade in and we convert it to integer after we get it from raw input. Now we start our loop. While grade is not equal to -1, take the grade and add it to the total. Increment the count by 1 so we can keep an accurate number of grades that we've entered. And then prompt the user to enter a grade again. That's the end of our loop. So then when we're finished, we will compute the average by dividing the total by the count. And then we'll display the average grade. Just like so. So again, let's look at our event. The event is entering a -1 for the grade. So while a grade is not -1, then we can continue entering grades to figure out our average. So let's exit and save. And then let's run our program. So what we're going to do is we're going to enter a series of even values. Then we'll enter -1. And the average grade is 80. And that's right. Of those 5 grades, the average is indeed 80. Let's run it one more time with just a wide range of grades. I'll just keep entering for a bit longer. We'll do one more. So let's bring the program back up and let's review what we did. We have a loop that runs while the grade that's entered is not -1. And notice how we enter a grade initially before we go into the loop. I read once in a programming text that this is called priming the pump. So that we're priming the pump by assigning a grade here and then testing it here. And then we again enter a grade after we've taken the current grade, added it to the total, and added to our count. Going back to the original description of a while loop, we still have an event or a statement in the loop body that will cause the loop to quit. And that's this line right here, grade is equal to int raw input. Because once we enter -1, when we go back to the top of the loop to test our relational expression, grade is indeed -1, so that becomes false, that relational expression becomes false, and our loop stops. So that's how event-controlled loops work. And like I said, we're going to look at another example later in the chapter when we talk about processing text files. But for now, we're going to move to another topic, and we're going to talk about a special statement called continue that allows us to skip parts of a loop body and go on to the next iteration of the loop. After continue, in the next lesson, we'll look at another example called break, which allows us to exit a loop completely prematurely. And continue and break are not statements that you want to use all the time, but there are situations where they are needed. So we're going to start in the next lesson by looking at the continue statement.